So let us start with today's lecture. So we will continue with the testing. We have done testing. Now we will start with the part 2 of the testing. I have introduced the different types of testing. So in this today's lecture, we will do what are different types of subtypes of testing. As we did, there is a system testing, there is a unit testing, integration testing, then there is a black box testing, white box testing. So I will do the different types of testing with you today. Just wait for a minute. Hello. So today we will do testing part 2. So in testing part 2, there is subtypes of all the testing we have done. So today I will side by side uh, mostly do the screen sharing and explain all the types, subtypes of testing there only. So this will be the very, you can say, new topic for you for the types of testing. There are alpha testing, beta testing. So all the types of testing you will be doing. Then there is some other testing. In white box testing, there are several types of white box testing where we test according to the coverage. We see the whole code is being covered, or means we have to see the coverage of each and every line of the code. There are different types of coverage testing, and there are some fault based testing. Fault based testing like mutation testing will be there, where we will see is there any fault in your code or your system, what the code you have made for the system. So these are testing. After that, we will do some stress testing. We put the system onto the very high stress on terms of time, on terms of volume. So if we put on extra pressure on the coding and we see your system crashes, does not crashes. So that type of testing is known as the stress testing. Then there are documentation testing, means all the documents that we have prepared for your software products, all documents are right or not. So that type of testing is there. There is some regression testing. So these are different types of, I'm just telling the names of different types of testing. There is a performance testing. There is the endurance testing. Endurance testing is another name of stress testing. Then we all, and we see the test report. We generate the test report at the end of the testing phase. So it is the very important phase, that is the testing phase. So we will do different types of testing and subtypes of testing today. So just to remind, uh, just I named all the testing what we have done. We have done the unit testing, we have done the integration testing, we have done the system testing, but the types will be done today. We have also done the black box and the white box testing. So we will do the two types of black box testing, that is the equivalence partitioning and boundary value testing, and there are several types of white box testing. So you have to pay attention very much. So PPT about this testing, the detailed PPT about this testing, I have already uploaded on your ERP portal. After testing, I will discuss the MST1, how you attempted the MST1 and what was expected from you. And mostly you have done good. I will say mostly you have done good. So whatever the paper I have checked till now, all are passing. One or two paper I have to check that uh, leaving that all are just one or two students are just passing, and most of you are having the good number. So that is the case that I will also discuss. what more you can do in that types of, in how to attempt the paper, what is expected in that particular question. So I will discuss for the 10 minutes in the end of this lecture after the pause. So now I am going to start the today's lecture and I will share the screen. So you have to pay attention and see all the screens that I'm sharing. Madhu ma'am. So all of you pay attention. So this is testing part 2. So testing part 2, we start with the previous topic that we do the 3 types of testing. One is the unit testing. Then is the unit testing means testing of individual module. Then we do the integration testing. One by one, we add on the modules. We add on the modules. So that is known as uh, Tejinder madam will be there. That is the we add on the modules in the integration testing, and afterwards, when all the modules have been added one by one, we again do the testing, and in the end, we do the overall testing of the system. That is known as the system testing. So today we start with the types of integration testing. Types of integration testing. Let me see where is the Papu. He is not here now. So first type of different types of integration testing are Big Bang approach, then the top-down approach, then the bottom-up approach, and the mixed approach. Next, man, we will start with the Big Bang approach. So first we will do the Big Bang approach. So Big Bang approach is the simplest form of integration testing. So here all the modules are simply put together and tested. Means it is a big bang. All the modules of your system, the code of each and every modules, they are all put together and they are tested for. So this is the simplest type of testing of the integration form. That is, you just collect all the modules and test them together. So this technique is very used only for very small system. It is good when your system is very small, it has limited numbers of modules. So you can easily check upon if there is some error in any part of the your any of the module, because it is only suited for the small system. If the system is very large, it will be having many modules. So your code will be very large. If there is an error, then we identification of the error will be or tracing of the error will be difficult. So it is suited where the system is small, or system small means where the modules are very less and coding is less. Next. So it is the main problem with this approach is that if your system is very large, to find the localized error at a particular place, it will very difficult to trace that particular error. So this is the main thing advantage is that it is very easy testing, but it suits only to the small systems. If the system is large, then tracing of error could be found, but where that error is there, tracing of the error becomes little bit difficult in Big Bang integration testing. Bottom up integration testing, just see, suppose this is one module and module 1, then it is having module 2, then module 3, module 4. So here we start with the bottom module first. The module within a module, or it can be a container ship also. There is one module M1. In this there can be M2. In this there is a M3. So whatever case, so bottom module, the lower level module is tested first. That is known as the bottom up integration testing. First we will check M4, then we will check M3, then we will check M2. After means M4 will be checked, then M3 will be combined with the M4, then checking will be done. Then in this result, M2 will be combined, then checking will be done. and in last M1 will also be combined, then checking will be done. Here first of all M3 will be checked. If there is no error, then we will combine M2 and M3, then again testing will be done, then we will combine M1. So integrate one by one. So checking of single module is known as unit testing. So first we will unit test M3, unit test M2, unit test M1 separately. Then we will combine M2 and M3, then do the testing. But why we see integration testing? Because you know there is coupling. There is a coupling between the different functions and the modules. So while coupling, some error does not creeps upon because there is a parameter passing like function calls. We pass the parameter. So during the parameter passing from M2 to M3, something. So if their combination is not good, there is difference in the data types. So this type of error could creep in. So we have to see. That's why we do the integration testing. First of all, we do the individual testing. In individual testing, that is the unit testing, we check the cohesiveness, that how much strong your particular module is. But when we integrate them, it is going to the also the check of the coupling, that the coupling is done properly or not. Next. In top-down approach, the reverse one. Here M1 will be tested first, then M2 and M1 will be combined, then M3 will be combined to this result, and then M4 will be combined. It is a reverse approach of the bottom-up testing, top-down integration testing. Next. So then is the mixed integration testing. In mixed integration testing, both the things can be done. So first you test this one and you combine this, then you do this, you combine these two, then you combine result of this and result of this and you test. So it is the bottom up plus top down. This type of. Ajay sir. So this is about the testing, mixed integration testing. So these are the different types of integration testing, the Big Bang, then the bottom up, then the top down, and the mixed integration testing. Next. Then comes to the system testing. System testing is after doing the integration testing, the whole system. Now, first unit testing is there, then integration testing. After it is successful in the integration testing, then we check the overall system. So that type of overall system is known as the system testing. It is further of three types. One is alpha testing, second is beta testing, and third is acceptance testing. So just see where at which level or at who test, who does the alpha testing, who does the beta testing, and who does the acceptance testing. It is important whenever you are discussing the system testing, you keep in mind here the answer is who. You will explain this type of testing with three types of testing on the basis of who does this type of testing. And while doing the integration testing, you just remember how integration is done. So there just idea to explain the integration testing, you keep in mind you have to explain how integration is done. But in systems testing, you just keep in mind who does this test. So at whose end this testing is done. Start with the alpha testing. So it is carried out by the test team with the developing organization. Means all the experts who have developed your software project, they will test at their end the whole system. When overall integration is completed, then there is a all different code of different modules we considered only as a one system module. So one system module, the coding of full system will be tested, and that is done by the expert of your team who have developed the software project or the product. So it is at the developer's end. Then comes the beta testing. Beta testing, it is performed by the select group of friendly customers. So the product is not launched at the market. Before that, some customers which are your friendly customers, those are known to you, those who are your well wishers. You give your product to them and you ask them to use this product and find out if some discrepancy is there. Whatever you also tell that this is the requirement in the SRS. So this product has supposed to do this functionalities. You just use at your end, regular use, and just see is there any discrepancy. So this type of testing with the friendly customers is known as the beta testing. Just remember it is a system testing. Whole product is given there. Then is the acceptance testing. That is you, the customer, when the product is launched in the market, then the customer use it. And if there is some fault, some discrepancy is there, those customer report to the in the form of complaints to the developing team. So that type of testing at the customer's end, when it is launched, that type of testing is known as the acceptance testing. And they said that this product is accepted or rejected. Next. So system testing, it is during the system what is being tested, all the functional requirements are validated through the functional test. So what are types of functional requirements? This question was in the MST also, functional requirements and the non-functional requirements. Functional requirements are the high level requirements, which are the basic functions that your system is supposed to do. So all the functions, all the basic functions that your system is supposed to do, those are known as the functional requirements. And non-functional, these are the extra like reliability factor, maintenance factor, portability factor of your software product. So those come under the non-robustness, non-functional requirements. So during the system testing, we check upon the functional and the non-functional requirements, both the things. Then come the stress testing. So it is also another name for stress testing is endurance testing. Just remember, I will stop you 10 seconds. Another name for stress testing is endurance testing. So what happens in this? Normally, suppose your product is like this, and on the normally on an average, it processes 5 MB data. Suppose normally it processes the 5 MB data. But in stress testing, and the limit of your product is 10 MB. Most maximum it can support at a moment only the 10 MB of data. I mean maximum it can process 10 MB of data. So in stress testing, you give 10 or 10.5 MB data. That is, you are putting the stress on a, means you have to see whether your system will does not crash when stress is put. Suppose you see when number of users increase, every time we say that at particular moment like this our Zoom. So at in Zoom meeting, we can have what account that we are having, we can have maximum of 300 customers or users at a time. 300 participants can join. But we will see that in stress testing, we will actually make, but normally you see 50 or 100 students only participates. So our system is working very good. But we have to see when all 300 participants join, then what is the response of the system? Is there is some bandwidth issue, or your system does not crashes? For that type of testing, where the maximum limit, whatever the maximum limit in terms of volume, data rate, processing time, and memory. So in terms of these maximum limit, uh, burden of everything is put on your system, and you see that your system does not crashes down. So this type of testing is known as the stress testing or the endurance testing. Next. So error seeding. Error seeding is, uh, you can admit like this. Error seeding is you deliberately put some error in your code, and you run any test suite and see that this error has been detected or not. You deliberately input some error. So if your system does not, your testing suite does not detect that error, then there is a fault in the code, because your system error is put, but your system, your test suite is not detecting your error. Means whatever these test suite what you have used earlier for different types of testing, then these test suites are not right. You have to change your test suite, because if you have uh, deliberately put an error to your codes, it must get detected. And if it is not being detected, then there is definitely fault on your test suite and test cases. So you have to see again your test cases and test suite. So that is known as the error seeding. So those errors are known to you that you are seeding in your coding. Next type of testing. Next, ma'am. Next. Now we will do different types of black box testing. So test cases are in blackboard testing and whiteboard testing to find the bugs. So we have to generate some test suits and test cases. So test cases were designed in blackboard testing. Here, blackboard testing is a type of functional. We check the functional strength of your system. Means whatever the functional that your system is supposed to do, is your system doing all these functions. So in blackboard testing, this is tested that all the functions are being performed. So it is a black box because we do not know the internal detail of your system. We only see the whatever the functions your system must do, are those functions are being done by your system or not. So how it is being done, we are not we do not care about how it is done. We have to only see whether these functions are being performed by your system. How it is being performed, what is the internal detail or what is the internal structure of your whole system, we do not care about this thing in a black box testing. So in black box testing, there are two main types of approaches. One is equivalence class partitioning and another is boundary value analysis. We start with the equivalence class partitioning first of all. Next. So in equivalent class partitioning, what happens? Input values to a program are partitioned into the equivalent classes. Just I will tell you. What example that will be there in a slide is, suppose we have to find the square root of the numbers between 1 to 5,000. So range of a number to whom we have to find the input, range of the input is 1 to 5,000. So this is the range. So between this. So how we will make the test suit now? How we will have different classes of the input. So one class, it can be 0 also, or it can be 1. So one class will be this one. That is the valid class where the square root has to be found. That is 1 to 5,000. All the numbers above than greater than 5,000, it will become to the invalid class. And all the numbers below this one, it will also become the invalid class. So in such a cases, we have partitioned your input range, the test suit. We will now when we will so one test case belongs to invalid class, another is invalid class greater than 5,000, invalid class which is less than 1, and all the numbers between this whose square root has to be found, it is the valid class. So your test suit, when we will make a test suit, it will have one entry from here, suppose minus 40, one entry from here, suppose 700, and one entry from this invalid class, that is 6,000. So your this will be the one test suit. So it is the equivalence class partitioning. So this type of problem, we have three classes. Out of three classes, one is the valid class and another two are the invalid class. And test suit will contain one entry from each. So this is test one, test suit one. Second test suit can be minus 4,000, 4,000, 8,000. So this is another test suit. So this is what the equivalence class partitioning is. So these are the test cases. The combination of test cases becomes the test suit. The test suit will contain one entry from all the classes. In your case, we have divided three classes, the whole entry into the three classes. You have to find the square root between 1 to 1,000 in that range. So above 5,000, it becomes the invalid, or all the numbers which are negative, it also becomes the invalid, and all the numbers between this range, it becomes the valid class. So program partitioning is done such that your program behaves in similar ways to every input value belonging to the equivalence. Means if there is some error at this case, it should generate the error. At this case also it should generate the error, and in this case it should not generate any error. So this is the type of testing which is a type of black box testing, and it is known as the equivalence class partitioning. Next one. So how do you determine the equivalence class? So here we have to examine the input data. Suppose in this case, we have to examine the input data. Then there are some general guidelines given where the expert decide how many classes are to be made. In our example, the 3 classes were good. Next, just see example. This is if the input data to the program is specified by a range of values, that is number between 1 to 5,000, that we have to find the square root of all the numbers between the 1 to 5,000. So this is the way we make the equivalence partition. We make the 3 classes. We out of this, 2 classes are invalid classes and 1 class is valid class. Just see what I have explained. That is explained in a screen also. Next one. So if your input is an enumerated set of values, suppose A, B, C. So one equivalence class for valid input class. So and another equivalence for invalid. So if your input data, here the input data was in the range of 1 to 1,000. But another case, the input data is A, B, C. We have only this. So there can be only two two classes. One is valid class with values A, B, C, and another is invalid class with all the values other than ABC. So if so, this some guidelines are there where we decide how many classes we will make, how many equivalence classes we will make. So in this case, there will be only 2 classes. One will be the with one set of ABC and another with the set of all the values except the ABC. But in this case, there were 3 classes. One was valid and 2 were invalid. One greater than 5,000, another invalid less than 1, and one valid between 1 to 5,000. Next one. So this example, what I was saying, so if you put any number I, and we have to find the square root of I. And what your program is, you have to read all the numbers input in the range of 1 and 5,000. Next. There are 3 equivalent classes. In this case, the set of negative integers, the set of all the integers between 1 to 5,000, and set of all the integers, positive integers, which are larger than 5,000. Next. The test must include representative from each part of the 3. So this is the test. He has given one example of test suite. I have given 2 examples of the test suite. So in his example, just see 1 minus 5, it belongs to this class. Then is the 500, it belongs to this class. Then is the 6,000 that belongs to this class. Next. Next is the boundary value analysis. Most of the thing what we have observed in a software designing or the testing, that tests are good when we are between the ranges, but more or the you can say cases occurs or the errors occurs in the boundary values, where the class boundary is there. At that particular cases, the chances of error is more. And why the chances of error is more? Because suppose I want to say less than 5 or greater than 5, x less than 5. So instead of writing x less than 5 in a code, you may write s less than equal to 5. So here in the boundary, the 5 will be the boundary. In the boundary case, it will be the problem. Now we have to see whether it can be done or not in a boundary case. So for 6, if you write here like this only, actual thing is this: we want x less than 5, but what you have written as less than equal to 5. So if we take the case of 4, so it will be suited here also, here also. If we take the case of 6 or 7, it will be rejected here also, it will be rejected here also. But what 5? So if we put 5, so it will be rejected here, but it will be accepted here. So this is the boundary value. So the boundary value analysis is very important because most of the problems occur at the boundaries. So same is the case. So it is a special case of equivalence class. Wait for a second. So this is the case. So programmers may, this is the example, programmers may improperly use less than or instead of equal to. So boundary and value cases. So these are the main problems. less than and less than equal to, greater than and greater than equal to. Most chances during the coding is this thing. Instead of putting less than symbol, we put less than equal to symbol. Clear? So these are the cases of the boundary values. So these are the important cases of the boundary value analysis. Next, ma'am. So just click on there. So just see in that particular example. So one boundary was, so this is 1 to 5,000. So here the boundary comes. So boundary is 0 and 1. 0 and 1 becomes the boundary. In this cases, 5,000 also becomes the boundary, and 5,001 also becomes the boundary. So in boundary value analysis in test suite, we only include the values from the boundary. One from both the sides. If one is there, so 0 and 1. Another test suite can have, so it is, we are taking only into account, we can have a range of a boundary. Sometimes we can specify the range of 5 in a boundary. So if the range of 5 is there, then it can be -3, -2, -1, 0, 1. So from this value, from this boundary, these values can come. And from here, it can be 5,000, 5,001, 5,002, and so. So in boundary value analysis, we have to take only those values which exist in the boundaries, because mostly we, while specifying the range, suppose sometime I say in the range between 1 to 5,000. So some software we say between 1 to 5,000, they include only, they do not include 1 and 5,000. And some operators, they include 1 and 5,000. So this is the case of the boundary value analysis. Next. Just wait. Then we come to the different types of white box testing. There are several types of white box testing. So these white box testing are basically divided into the two basic things. One is the coverage based testing and another is the fault based testing. So just see statement coverage, branch coverage, path coverage, condition coverage. These are the coverage based testing, and mutation testing is a type of fault based testing. And one thing I want to remind you that white box testing is the internal structural detail, testing of the internal structure of your code, of your system. While the black box testing, we are only testing the functional testing. What functions your system is going to perform. We do not care how that function is being performed. But here we're taking into account the internal structure of your system. So we start with the statement coverage. So it is of two types, coverage based testing and fault based testing. In coverage based testing, we see that we design test cases in such a manner so that it could cover the whole code. And idea behind the fault based testing, it is we design the test cases in such a manner that our main focus of discovering the certain types of faults. And the best example for the fault based testing is the mutation testing that we will do in a further slides. Next. So in a coverage based, first testing is statement coverage. So in this, we make a test suite or test cases in such a cases that all the statement, each and every statement of your code, it must execute at least once. So we make the test cases so that every statement in the program is executed at least once. Means in the test suite or the test cases, all statement has to be implemented or executed at least once. So it is the whole testing. Next, just the example there. So here are certain statements 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6. So test cases will be generated in such a manner. See the question here, if x greater than y. So we will have at least two test suits. In one case where x will be greater than y, and second case where x will be less than y, and three cases where x is equal to y. So we will see, we will test, we will put the inputs, we will generate the test cases, or we can have a three different test suits. In one test suit, we will have the value which is greater than 1, and where x is greater, in another case where x is less, and in the third case where x is equal to y. Then we will check all the statements are running. Next. Next slide. Branch coverage. So if there is a condition, like if condition is there, so either it can be yes or either it can be no. If yes, this code will run. If no, this code will run. So here at a time, when we execute your code, only one of the block will be running. So that type of, and we have to test, or while testing, we have to put input in such a manner that this branch is also get tested, and in another test set cases, we have to select such a values that another branch also get tested. So we have to test all the branches. In previous, we have to test all the statements. Here we have to test all the branches. So obviously branching is done only when there is some condition is there. So we have to put the values in a condition in such a manner that this branch also gets tested and this branch also gets tested. Next. So it is known as condition coverage. And in condition cases, like a switch case is there. So switch case have many cases. So here we will see test for all the conditions. Suppose your program is simple program, like you input the day number, and on the basis of the day number you test the if case 1 it is Monday, case 2 it is Tuesday, case 3 it is Wednesday, and so on. Case 7 it is Sunday, and default case means other than this it is wrong entry. So here condition coverage. So you have to put a when you put the DN, first of all you will put 1 and you will see whether Monday is displayed. Then you will put 2, you will see whether Tuesday is displayed. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and also default cases you put 8, 9, -2, -5. So you check all the cases at your place. So this type of checking or the testing is known as condition coverage. You have to cover all the conditions. You have to cover all the cases. Next. Path coverage. In path coverage, what happens when we make, you can say when there are data structures, different types of data structure, graphs and trees. So inside your system, there are graphs and trees you implement using your coding using different types of data structures. So in data structure, just take an example of a graph or example of a tree. Then we make such a testing that each and every graph of your system, each and every branch of your system that tested. So if just I will show with the example also. Suppose we have such a graph. So, and it is a directed graph. Suppose this is source, this is destination. So there are several paths of reaching from source to destination. One path is this one path is this one path is from here you go there, one path is from here you come here, move here and go there. So there are several paths are available. Now you have to make the test suits or test cases in such a way that it should check all the paths. So that is known as the path coverage. That is known as the path coverage. So different test cases are generated where you see all the card. So this it is defined in terms of control flow graph. Means the control or execution can follow any path of the graph. So you have to test all the paths of the graph in your code. That type of testing, which is a special case of white box testing, which is known as the path coverage, you have to cover all the paths with your different test cases or the test suits. Next one. To understand the path, this is the basic thing that I have already told. So we have to see the sequence of control flow graph. We have to see what are the different flow where the control of the system passes through. So the control flow graph means in this you have to describe what is CFG or the control flow graph. So it is the sequence in which different instructions of a program get executed. The way control flows through the program. It is the manner in which there is the flow of a control of execution of your program. Next. Now, how to draw the control flow graph? Just see in example, what we do is number all the statements of a program. So numbered statements, it represents how to numbering, how the numbering is done. Just see. We have in a previous example, I've shown you the then x is not equal to y, x is greater than y. We have numbered the statement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So here also numbered statement are used represent nodes of the control flow graph, or each and every statement it is represented by the nodes. And what the edge represents, an edge from one node to another node exists if the execution of the statement represent that the flow goes from this particular node to that particular node, then it will be the edge. So all the statements, if your program is having 6 statements, then your control flow graph will have 6 nodes. And number of edges, if one statement execution of one statement leads to which particular node or which particular statement in a sequence, the edge will be in between these two nodes. Next. So just same example is there. This is a function f1 having the two parameters x and y. It will accept parameters. Then there is a loop. While loop is there, x not equal to y. And in between the loop, what happens? We check the condition. If x is greater than y, then we do x is equal to x minus y, as we do y is equal to y minus 1. So this statement will keep on continuing in a loop until while the condition is true. That condition is until x is not equal to y. When x becomes equal to y, then you will jump out of the loop and you will return the value of the x at that particular moment when x become equal to y. Next. So just see the numbering of the statement. So we make a control flow graph. So just see, this is the control flow 1, 2, 3. There was a branching. There if statement was there, if statement as the 2 number statement was the if statement. So there is a branching. If true, we will go to 3 where x is equal to x minus y, and 4 where y is equal to y minus y. Here if x is greater than y, here this statement is there. This is the loop statement where x, while x not equal to y, this statement was there. X is, ma'am, go to the previous slide, please. X is greater than y. So this is x greater than y. This is the statement of x minus y. This is the statement of y minus x. Yes, madam. Again, come to that. Then it will return x. That is the loop ends here. So this shows the end of the loop here. So it has made 3 graphs. You can say simple. You can make a cycle like this also. And when while condition goes true, then we have to come out of the loop and we have to display 6. Now this 6 is return x. Return x. So just see how to make the graph from the statement. If the branches is there, you have to do like it. If the loop is there, this, and it the condition of while comes less, so it will be go until x is not equal to y. It will be returning here. When x becomes equal to y, then what is the value of x that particular moment that will be returned. So it is a function call. It is a function call which is f1. We are passing value of x and y. So this is the function f1. So this is the body of the function f1 here. Next one. For another case, if your program code is like two sequential number a is equal to 5 and b is equal to a into b minus 1, then it will have only two statements and two nodes will be there, that is 1 and 2. This one means a is equal to 5. This 2 means b is equal to a into b minus 1. So it will having such a control flow graph. So how to make a control flow graph? It is an important thing. Next. This all is under the path coverage. This all is under the path coverage. Now just see how to make the control flow graph of the selection, that we have already done this thing in a previous example. So here the same thing is repeated with if a is greater than b, then c is equal to 3, else c is equal to 5, and last c is equal to c into square. So this is the simple thing. This thing selection is already covered in this example also. Next. So how to draw a iteration? So in this example, iteration is already there. So this loop shows the iteration again and again. So this loop also contains the iteration. While x is not equal to y, it will be done again and again. Next. So a path. Now what is the path? So these are the path. The path is from 1 to 6. What are the different manner through which we come from 1 to 6? Means all the statements run. So destination is 6. This is the one. How we end? So there are different types of paths. How many paths are available? So how to calculate how many paths are available? There is a formula for that. Just see how to calculate the number of paths available in a control flow graph. So what is the method? The node and edge sequence from the starting node to the terminal node. Starting node to the terminal node of the control flow. So there are that number of paths. There is a simple formula to generate the path. We will also see the formula next one. So what are these paths? We have to see that these paths should be linearly independent. They should not be dependent upon each other. These paths should be independent of each other. So if any node introduced one new edge, so it will may result in a new path. Next, we have to see only the independent path. So there is a cyclometric metric is there, which is given by the MACAPS, which says there are some upper bound on the number of paths available in any control flow graph. So any control flow graph can have maximum of these number of independent paths. And how to calculate that? He has given one formula. Next. So given control flow graph G, the cyclometric complexity Vg. So Vg, the formula for Vg is E minus n plus 2. Where what is n and what is E? N is the number of nodes in a graph G and E is the number of edges in G. So E minus n plus 2. This is the formula. There is one more formula to calculate the number of independent paths that I will not discuss today. But in your slide that I have uploaded, there I have given one more formula to calculate the number of paths. It is much simpler than this also. That formula is much simpler than this also, that you will do yourself. So I will do this MACAPS cyclometric metric for calculating the number of paths, independent paths, that I am discussing with you. Another method also given by him, that formula that you will do yourself. I will not discuss that particular formula here. Next. So this is the simple method from this formula. The example is given in the slides itself. I want that you must go through that particular slide. Therefore, I am not discussing this here. E minus n plus 2. You can see how many. So here answer is 3. I am just giving the answer. That is answer will be 3. How it will be, you have to see yourself. And it is solved in the slides that I have given you uploaded there. I want that you should go through again that particular, because a simple numerical can come on find the number of independent paths in a given control flow graph. It can question can be, I can give you any code. First part can be draw a control flow graph. Second part can be also find the number of independent path. So that's why I'm not discussing that thing here. Next topic is mutation testing. So it is also a white box testing. So it was divided into the two part white box testing. One was the coverage type of testing, and second is the fault based testing. Now this is the fault based testing where our main focus is to generate such a test cases which will find the faults in a system or the faults in a code. The software is first searched using an initial testing method based on white box strategies we have already discussed up till now. After the initial testing is complete, so then comes the mutation testing. Mutation. Now, what is mutant? Mutant is known as error. It is a type of error seeding, you can also say. Here, the idea behind mutant testing is make a few arbitrary small changes to a program at a time. So we have a code written. Just I will tell you about this. So suppose there is a code written statement 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is statement x1, as we say s1, s1, s2, s3, s4, s5, and s6. These are the statements of any code. So mutation testing is done. We will make some changes here, some changes here, any of the statement. And these are the simple changes. Means instead of greater than, we put greater than equal to, less than, we put then less than equal to, or instead of greater than, we put this. If int has to be written, I write inti. So we have to see, we deliberately and make some changes in a already tested code. We have already done the testing. Now we are ourselves putting some changes in a code, and we want to see that after making some changes, your code is good enough. It is giving the same result or not. It should not give the same result. Basically, if you have made the changes, then it should, you have done all the testing. After that, you see that if the code remains the same, nothing is the problem. If we change the code, then what will be the problem there? Whether your system is able to detect that particular change or not. So that particular change that you bring into your program, and it is an arbitrary change and it is a small change. I'm not saying you change whole program. It is a small change in between some of the statements only. So that particular change is known as mutant. That particular change is known as mutant. Yes, ma'am. Next. So each time the program is changed, it is called mutated program, because mutated, and whatever the change you have brought, it is known as mutant. Whatever the change you bring in your program, it is known as mutant, and the changed program is known as the mutated program. Next. A mutated program tested against the full test suite of the program. We again test all with that particular test suite earlier what we have done, and you have tested the whole program, you have done all types of testing. After that mutation testing is done, you yourself put an error. Now you check same program with those particular test suites. If there exists one of the test cases in the test suite for which a mutant gives an incorrect result, then the mutant is said to be dead. So you want that your test suite should generate an error that earlier it was right, but you have made some changes, you have made some error, so it should generate an error. So if it generates an error, then your mutant is, your change is dead. You have identified that change. So your test suite is right. Next, if your test suite is not able to find that particular change, or then we see that even after all the test cases have been exhausted, the test suite is unasked to kill the mutant. Then we say that suppose we have made the changes. First of all, we have done all the testing. Your code is error free. Then you make some changes, you bring some mutant in a program. What we desire that after you make some changes, your new, again you are testing, your test suite should find that change, that you have done this change, so there is an error. But still, if it is not giving some error, means your test suite is not right, your test cases are not right, because you have to, your test cases should find that particular change. And if your test suite or test case is not able to find that particular change, then it means you have to enhance your test suite now, because it is not able to detect this particular change. So this type of change, it is a type of error seeding I already discussed earlier also. So your mutant should be dead. We do not want that your mutant should not be. Here the mutant is alive. Means change what you have made, it has not been detected and your mutant is alive. But you want that you should kill your mutant. So you have to enhance your test suite. So this is the idea behind the mutation testing, and it is important also. Next. So what are the different types of changes that you bring in the form of mutant? Altering an arithmetic operator means instead of plus, you write minus. Changing the value of the constant. Suppose constant pi is equal to 3.14. Pi is equal to 3.14. You write 3.55. This is one change. Changing a data type. Instead of int, you write char. Instead of char, you write int. Next. So this is the mutation. A major disadvantage of mutation testing, computationally very expensive, a large number of possible ones can be generated. So if you go for the mutation testing, suppose these were the 6 statements, but actually there are hundred of statements in your code, S1 to S100. So somebody will say, why to make change here? Why not to make change here? Why to make change here? Why not to make change here? So there are many cases of the mutation testing. So if you go with all the cases, then it will be very expensive. So it is an expertise form. Experts go through the different, they know that these are the statements where some neglection can be there. So make the changes there only, and you detect whether your test suite is able to detect that particular change or that particular error that you have deliberately brought into your coding. Next. Next is the recovery testing. So now all the tests what I will discuss now, they are very simple. The main thing what was in the syllabus that we have covered, but sometimes these questions are there, though they are not explicitly marked in your syllabus, but I will cover all these types of testing now. So recovery testing, it checks response, it checks presence of faults or the loss of data, power, devices or services. So how, if there is some loss, how fast your system recovers back, that type of testing is known as the recovery testing. There is some failure, some power break is there, something, then how fast your system comes to the proper way, that type is testing is known as the recovery testing. Maintenance testing, that all the diagnostic tools and procedures with during the maintenance phase, when their software is already delivered to your customer, then what type of some faults can be there. So how to test those faults, how to get the log of those faults, that type of testing is done as the maintenance testing. That is, the diagnosis is basically done at the customer's end. So we verify that all required artifacts for the maintaining exist, they function properly. So if fault is there, your person goes to that particular place, removes that particular fault, and again check the system whether it is functioning properly or not. Then is the documentation testing, whatever the document you provide to your customer with your product. So you have to make check of that particular documents like user guide, user manual, technical documents, any form you are giving, warranty card you are giving. So all types of these document, they have to be tested whether they are written right or not. They have also be to tested legally also by the legal department that this document we have prepared and we are delivering to the customer. That type of testing is known as the documentation testing. So usability test, here we all aspects of user interfaces are tested. Like I have user designing, UI designing is there. So all screens are there, proper dialog boxes are there, proper messages are coming. So you will put your system in that particular test that this dialog box is coming or not. So all the certain test display screen, all the things which are related to the user interfaces, all the pop-up windows, all the dialog box, all the cascading windows, all the menus are being dropped or not, there is a pop-up menu, it is being activated or not, doing this thing. So that type of testing is known as the usability testing. It is basically of the user interface testing. Next. Environmental test means your system, if there are some products which need R is the software, then it is not very you can say properly, but some there some hardware product is there, then some has to be put under the AC, so much heat is required, so much humidity is required, portability. Our is the case of the portability, that your hard disk get crashes if it is not properly covered with the spongy material or thermocol and all that. So those are the environmental testing are there, where is there any electromagnetic interference is there. So it is basically on the hardware devices, but not on the software products. Next. Then we generate the report of the test. Whatever the test we have performed up till now, we generate a report that is known as the test summary report. It is generated towards the end of the testing phase. It covers each subsystem. Whatever the test we have performed, the report of all the tests is written in that particular test summary report. Next. Then is the regression testing. It does not belong to either unit testing, integration, or system testing. Instead, it is a separate dimension to test three forms of testing. Means all the testing combined in a regression testing. We combine unit, integration, and system in a single way, that is known as the regression testing. Just see about this. Next, ma'am. It is a running of test suite after each change to the system, after each bug fix. What happens? Suppose I will tell you regression testing a little bit. That is, when you perform a test and some error or bugs are there, then you remove those error and bugs and another check, and you have another check on the system. That type of testing is basically the regression testing. Each time a bug is found, you again you fix those bugs, and you again ensure that after fixing, your system now works properly or not. That type of testing is known as the regression testing. So this is all about today's topic. So just I will review all the things. What are different types of testing? First is unit testing, then is the integration testing. There are types of integration testing. Then we did the system testing, alpha, beta, acceptance. There is the three types of system testing. Then test suites and test cases are generated to find the errors. Those two types of testing where we check the test cases and test suites to find the errors, they are belonging to two particular groups. One is the black box testing and another is the white box testing. In black box testing, what we do, we only see the functional requirements are fulfilled or not. The test is performed in such a way that we check whether all the functional requirements are fulfilled by your system. Is there any error in that particular thing? So it was of two types, equivalence partitioning and boundary value. Then we had a white box testing where the internal structure detail of your code or your system is tested. It was further divided into two parts. One is the fault based and another is the coverage based. In coverage based, we did the statement coverage, branch coverage, condition coverage, and we also did the CFG there, control flow graph, and how to find the number of paths, independent paths. There was a formula about that. One formula more is there that you have to see in your slides that I posted there in your ERP. Then there is a fault-based testing. It was the mutation testing where we deliberately put some changes in your system and we see whether your test suite is available, can detect that error or not, it is able to kill that mutant or not. If it is not able to kill that mutant, then we have to enhance your test cases and your test suite. Then there was another document testing was there, regression testing is there. So, and in the end, we generate the test report. So this is all about the testing. It was a little bit longer chapter. So you have to go. It is very important. And one tool about this testing is the Selenium that we will do in a practical classes. So this is all for today's. But now we will go through the poll. I will generate the poll. I give you 1 minute to just review what we have discussed in today's topic. Then I will go for a poll. So you may review all the things again, what we have discussed today. I give you 2 minutes there. Then I will go with the today's poll. So poll is very important, and there are 5 to 6 questions in the poll. Five polls will be there with different number of questions. So you have to go through the poll also. After going through the poll, I will discuss something about your MST. Just review again yourself at your level. So I give you 2 minutes more. So I will start with the poll. So this is your first poll for today. So just go through these 2 questions. Only 2 students have polled up till now, 6. Be fast. Attempt this poll. The first question is black box testing requires what? Functional specifications, structural specifications, both of above, none of above. And the second question is dash testing is called the structural testing, where we deal with the internal structure of your system. So simple questions are there. So up till now, 40 have attempted out of 47 students. So be fast. I will just wait for half a minute more. Four students still left. So go through this thing. So you must attempt all the polls. You know that evaluation has to be done through these polls only. So you must go through these polls. Still 2 students are left, 2 or 3 students are left now. 91% have voted till now. Now last 10 seconds, I will more wait for only 10 seconds more. So just see the result. So first answer for the first question was functional specifications, and answer for the second question was white box testing, where we see the internal structure of your testing also. So this was the first poll. Let's move towards the second poll. So I'm going to launch the second poll. So again, there are questions on a second poll, that is the types, further types of testing. We have done system testing, integration testing, black box testing, white box testing, and their further types. Just remember, first one is Big Bang testing is a type of which type of testing? And second question is alpha testing is a type of which type of testing? The type of which type testing? Just it was discussed very initially in the first two slides today. Only half of the students have polled up till now. 1 minute is over. Be fast. Attempt this poll. Two, three students still left. I think those two students are not, they are just login and not present. The same case earlier also. Two students did not polled. Yes. Now you have all voted. Now let me end this poll. See the result of the poll. The first answer was integration testing and good response from all of you. And second was the system testing. It is good. So this poll has good response from all of you. Very good. So I want that you should respond like this only. So very good response from all of you. Next, I move towards the next poll. This poll is also the types of testing. So I told you that in one cases you have to see how, and in other cases you have to see who carry out the test. So first question is boundary value analysis is a type of dash testing. And second is alpha testing is carried by whom? So give your response, submit your response, be fast. Yes, yes, be fast. 9 students still not voted. 30 seconds left now. Be fast with your poll. Be fast. So now all have voted and just see the result. So again, very good response from all of you. The answer for the first question was the black box, and answer for the second question was the developers. So beta testing is done with the friendly customers. Acceptance testing is done with the customers, and alpha testing is done at the developers end. So good response from you. Next, we move to the next poll of the day. So another name of a given poll, testing. Dash testing is known as endurance testing, whether it is a stress testing, mutation testing, or regression testing. So this poll has less number of questions, so I will give you less time, only 1 minute will be given. Just feed your response very fast, because in this poll the number of questions are less. So half the time will be given now. Four students still left. Just submit your response. Choose your answer. Yes, now you all have polled. I am going to end the poll. And very good response. 100% result for this poll. Very good. All of you have given right answer. So good response today. The response is coming good from all of you. Now the last poll of the day. Simple question. It is a type of white box testing, but further it is based on what? So here also number of questions are less. So be fast. Three students still left. Be fast. So all of you have polled up till now. Let me end the poll now. And again, see the result. So very good answer from all of you. 100% result in this poll also. Very good. Today your response was very good from all of you. So I think you have listened very well the lecture today. So that's the thing. So next I will tell you about the MST1. What was expected from you all from the different questions. I will ask one of you to just read out the questions that were there in a MST1. So who Who is there who remembers all the question? Sarika? Sarika, unmute yourself. Sarika?
Yes, sir.
Sarika, what was the first question? So first question was about the software crisis. So most of you have written good, whatever the, everybody have written right, this answer. But something additional, one graph was there about the software crisis. How either about the hardware relation with the software, the price. So you should have made that particular graph also. So most of the students have made the graph and they have been awarded 2 marks out of 2 marks. But those who have not made that particular graph, so half marks is reduced. And you can also suggest 2 points about how the software crisis can be overcome. What are the different ways we can, methods we can come out of the software crisis. So this question should be divided into 3 parts. One is the just writing what is the software crisis, then the graph can be there, and another how we can come out from this particular software crisis. So you can divide this into 3 parts. You need not have to write much, but all 3 portions have to be covered. So what you have done, I have awarded marks 1.5 or 2 marks to most of you. But in final paper, if this question comes, then you divide into 3 parts this question. Yes, and wherever the diagram is possible, you just make a diagram. It hardly takes 1 minute to make a diagram. So it is a simple diagram. The simple slope was there in a graph, and arc was there just to make a graph. Next question, yes. Sarika, what was the next question? So you don't remember. I will tell you what is the next question. The next question was about making a DFD, level 1 DFD. Making a level 1. So you have made all the bubbles there, but you have not numbered the bubbles like 0 0.1, 0 0.2, 0 0.3 and 0 0.4. So most of you have numbered the bubble, but few 10 students, I think, those who have not numbered the bubbles. So I have reduced 1 mark because numbering is very much important in a DFD. So it was a level 1. So level 0 was there, then level 1 was 0 0.1, 0 0.2, 0 0.3 and 0. As there were 4 functions, 4 bubbles were to make, and you have to keep also the direction of the arrow. So you have made the bubbles, but what mistake students have done, they have not seen the direction of the arrow. This function, there was a board in between, the data storage was there. So what will the direction of arrow between the bubble and the data storage? So this common mistake many of you have made, and numbering of the bubble is not done. Those who have done both the things, made the bubbles and made the arrows properly, 2 marks are awarded. Otherwise, 1 or 1.5 mark is awarded. Next question was the agile. So agile basically keep on changing. So here question was, you have to write down what is the agile model, SDLC, then what are its advantage, and you can also make a simple diagram. So I have not given much stress to the diagram, but who have written what is agility and what are the benefits of agile model. So I have awarded 2 marks. So this has to be divided at least in 2 portions. What is agile and what is the advantage of agile model? And the next question was, what are the characteristics of the SRS document? So as it was the 2 marks question, mostly you have got the 2 marks because there were many characteristics and you have listed all the characteristics. If it would have been the 5 marks questions, then you would have to explain each and every characteristics with an example. So as it was a 2 marks question, so mostly you have got the 2 marks. Yes, anybody come to section B now? What were the questions in the section B? Ritika, you may also help Sarika.
So the first question was the difference between functional and non-functional requirements.
This is very important. You have written, many of you have written 4 to 5 points, but hardly 20 students have written the functional requirements as the high level requirements. I was searching for this word, that it is the high level. Other type of, it is not a high level, it is a detailed one. So first difference should be this thing, that functional requirements comes under the high level, and second is it comes under the detail. So this point was missing in almost many, you can say, answers. Only 10 to 15 students have written this thing. So this is must. Rest all the points are there. You have written all the points, but this is the must thing. And functional requirements, how to specify, where they are specified. All the 4 to 5 points are good. And so here it was a 2 marks question, because total was the 4 marks. 2 parts were there. So in a part A, so I have given mostly 1.5 marks. Most of you have scored 1.5 marks. Next question was,
Difference between evolutionary and
yes,
prototyping model.
very important. You must write the different name of these protocols. Like one was the in evolutionary, it is also known as incremental. So here different versions are there, basic features are designed there, and they are released in the market to the customer. ये point नहीं लिखा हमने, you have not written that here we release the software or the product in a market, and later on in different versions we apply the, we add the new functionalities. This point has to be brought. And in a prototype model, it is also known as throw model or a toy model. So I was searching for these two words in both the things. And in the last, you can make a small diagram of the evolutionary model, like A, then A and B, the circles, concentric circles, and in prototype model. So diagram was missing. So if it would have been a 5 marks, so you would have lost many marks. Some would have got 2 marks or 3 marks. So this is the case here. So the maximum marks awarded, if everything is done, it is a 4 marks question, and maximum marks awarded is 3.5 marks. Next question was,
Uh, Good software should have high cohesion and low
I
coupling.
have given one statement, so you have to justify the statement. Most of you just written my statement and said, yes, it is good. How it is good? You should bring out that thing. Many of you have written my statement itself and you said, yes, it is good. But how it is good, you have to justify, because means you have to define what is coupling, you have to define what is cohesion. It is a cohesion, so it is a functional strength of a module, coupling the interdependency. So high cohesion means high functional strength, and how you achieve the high functional strength, if you do one particular task. So you have to bring out these things, and then you have to justify. So most you have written, yes, you have response was good, that this statement is true, but what justification you are giving, you are not giving the justification. Next, second part of this question was good as
Um, Building blocks of UML.
building blocks. So there were basically 3 building blocks: things, relationship, behavior, and all that. Some of only written this thing. So out of 2, I have given 1 marks, and those who explained these 3 things, I have given 2 marks. Yes,
So
next question.
next was activity network and Gantt chart.
None of you have attempted this question. None of you. All of you have attempted those 2 only. Not a single student have attempted this question. Next, section C.
So first was Kokomo model and
COCOMO model. Four,
UML.
5, 6, 7 students have attempted the COCOMO model. 3 from the IT were there. Two students from the IT were who have attempted this question, and 4 or 5 from your CSE. Prince Agarwal was one of them. He has attempted. A numerical was there. The chances of scoring was good there. Prince has done the right. 1 or 2 student have not done the second part at the time division, and 1 student from IT. It was 44,000 LOCs. He has in numerical has attempted 42,000. तो उसके तो 2 मार्क्स वहीं पे चले गए. One student from IT was there. So it was he or she not read the statement properly. It was 44,000 LOCs. So by calculating the per month that is effort, तो उसने वहाँ पे 42 लिख दिया और उसका न्यूमेरिकल वहाँ पे गलत हो गया. Though it was a 2 marks numerical, so she has that student has scored more in a 6 marks. So in this question, so mostly highest marks that will be awarded will be 7 only, not more than 7. But what somebody have intermixed, it is the organic semi-detached type and embedded type, and some have just mixed something. So more out of 7 or 8 students, 7 have written properly, one has not written properly. I do not remember his name. So mostly 5 to 6, 5 to 7 marks are awarded. You have scored and this. Next.
So last was spiral model.
Most of you have attempted this question, but the major mistake many of you done, it was having the 2 parts. First part about the spiral model, second part about the all the phases of the life cycle.
So, yes.
Most spiral model have been explained by all of you, but many of you, means 10 students might be there, they have not attempted the second part, that is the SDLC. And those who have attempted the SDLC, only 2 or 3 students have made the diagram of SDLC, all the phases. So diagram was required in the second part also. You have made the diagram of the spiral model with the 4 quadrants. So in a spiral model, what mistake mostly you have done? You have not named the quadrants properly. You have to remember the names of 4 quadrants. You have to explain those 4 quadrants. Then you have to write 1 advantage or 2 advantage of spiral model, 1 or 2 disadvantage. In the beginning, you have to write it is a meta model. It is also known as meta model because in it all the models, features of all the models is present. So first, in the second part, that is the SDLC, all the phases, hardly 2 or 3 students have made the diagram of SDLC. Ritika, you have made the diagram. One student
Yes,
more
sir.
have made the diagram, but most of the student have not made that diagram. So I could not award more than 6 marks to those students. Maximum marks that will be awarded here will be the 7 marks only. So clear? So this
Yes,
is
sir.
the pattern, what you have done and what I have expected, not expected, but what was to be done. And I said that in 4 marks question, maximum marks would be awarded will be 3.5, and in 8 marks question, maximum will be awarded will be a 7 marks. So this is the case. So overall, you have done good, but whatever the mistakes most of you have made, that I have brought into your notice. So you have to take into account in the final examination. So diagram, if diagram is possible, just make the diagram. Don't leave the diagram, because in diagram what we only see, we do not study. So it fetches you marks. Where we read each and every line, obviously we will find mistakes. So more you make an examiner to see your paper, more marks you will get. More you make an examiner to read your paper, you will lose the marks. So when you are writing the points, then highlight the points, underline the points. So examiner should see the point, he or may should not go through your description of the point. So this is the thing. So make it your mantra here, that for every paper, you make your examiner to see your paper. You don't make your examiner to read your paper. If your handwriting is good, from distant place, he or she will see what you have written. If your handwriting is not good, he has to read each and every line, what you have written. And if examiner reads your paper, each and every line, obviously he will find out more errors. So it is a type of statement coverage testing. If you put your examiner in a statement coverage, you are going to lose the marks. So mostly the marks are in the range of what you have scored. It is in the range of 17 to 22. But there are some students who have not attempted all the questions. There are some students with 13, 14 marks also. So mostly you have scored in a range of 17 to 22. So this is all about from my side for today lectures. So today you have all listened to the lecture very well and your poll result was very good. So thanks to you all. So we will meet again next Wednesday. So keep safe up till now. Bye from me.